Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're taking on a topic that honestly brings a sense of sheer dread to almost every single student and recent grad out there. Yeah, we're talking about the job interview. I mean, let's be real, it can feel like walking into an interrogation room totally blindfolded, right? But what if we could just take off that blindfold? In this explainer, we're going to completely demystify the whole interview process. We aren't just looking at the questions you might get hit with, we're actually going to shift your entire perspective on why they're being asked in the first place. By the time we wrap up, you'll have a rock-solid, strategic framework to walk into any interview with absolute confidence.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've structured this top-down framework into 3 core sections to help reduce that interview anxiety. First, the employer's mindset. Second, your tactical playbook. And third, the question gauntlet.
Section 1. The employer's mindset. Flipping the script to see what they really want.
To really master the interview, you've got to start thinking exactly like the person sitting across the desk from you. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the fascinating contrast between the surface and the subsurface of an interview. On the left side, we have what employers explicitly say they look for, right? They want someone who's a fast learner, a great problem solver, versatile, someone who's going to add real value. But look at the right side. This is what the interviewer is constantly, secretly trying to deduce from your responses. They're listening to your answers and evaluating your actual capability, how much supervision you're going to need, and your compatibility with their corporate culture. They are deeply concerned with your commitment and, critically, the actual probability that you're going to stick around. Every single question they ask is really just a tool to uncover these deeper deductions.
Now, while employers are definitely trying to deduce a lot about you, there is a hard, strict line they simply cannot cross. It is absolutely vital that you know your legal boundaries before walking into any interview room. Listen, employers should never, under any circumstances, ask you questions about your race, ethnic background, or national origin. They literally cannot ask about your religious affiliation, your marital status, or your plans for a family. Questions about gender, sexual orientation, age, weight, height, or an arrest record, completely off limits. Knowing these boundaries is so empowering. It reminds you that, hey, this is a professional transaction, and you have rights that are fiercely protected by law.
Moving into Section 2, your tactical playbook, developing confidence and proving competence.
All right, so now that we understand the interviewer's hidden deductions and those legal boundaries, it's time to focus on your actionable goals. Your main mission in an interview is to convince the employer that you'll bring immediate and long-term benefit to the organization. But how do you actually do that? Well, you have to prove how you bring value. Notice the rhythm of what a business actually needs to survive and thrive. You need to show that you can generate revenue, cut costs, and increase productivity. You've got to demonstrate that you'll improve quality, save time, and use technology effectively. And you must show you can motivate and persuade others. If your answers aren't touching on at least one of these core value adds, you know what? You're just not playing the game effectively.
To consistently hit those value adds, you really need a reliable structure for your responses. Let's look at the actual mechanics of a winning answer. Step 1. Always focus your responses toward filling the employer's needs. Remember those deductions we talked about? Make sure you understand the question and actually take a breath to think before you speak. Step 2. Quantify your answer whenever possible and use very specific, concrete examples. Don't just say you're organized. Prove it with a measurable outcome. Be clear, thorough, and accurate. So the crucial point is mastering Step 3. Once you have delivered your thorough, quantified example, you need to stop talking. Seriously, rambling is the absolute enemy of competence. Deliver the value and then just sit in the confidence of your answer.
Section 3. The question gauntlet. Applying the playbook to the rapid-fire questions.
You know, it's so easy to get totally overwhelmed by dozens of completely different interview prompts, but we're going to tame that giant list by grouping them into thematic categories. We begin with the most famous primary prompt in the entire history of interviewing: tell me about yourself. This perfectly represents our first broad category, self-reflection questions. When an employer asks this, please remember, they do not want your entire life story. What they want is a concise summary of your professional narrative that proves you have genuine self-awareness and focus.
And this brilliantly illustrates how many seemingly different questions are really just the exact same prompt in a clever disguise. Think about it. How would a close friend describe you? What is your biggest weakness? What gets under your skin? What's your personality style? These are literally all just different flavors of that core self-reflection category. The interviewer is digging in to deduce your compatibility and your maturity. They want to see if you can honestly evaluate your own traits, the good and the bad, without getting super defensive or just feeding them a cliché, heavily rehearsed answer.
Now, our second category pivots from who you are to what you have actually done.
Scenario-based questions like, give me an example in which you successfully resolved the conflict, are probing your past behavior and experience. The logic here is incredibly simple but powerful. Past behavior is by far the best predictor of future performance.
And the variations in this category, endless. Tell me about a time you tried and failed. Give an example of a problem you solved. Describe a leadership experience that did not go as planned. Notice how every single one of these prompts demands a story? Well, this is exactly where you deploy the rules from our tactical playbook. You must use specific, concrete examples. You have to clearly outline the situation, the action you took, and, this is huge, you must quantify the result. Did you cut costs? Did you save time? This is your moment to prove your competence with actual historical facts, not just empty, buzzword adjectives.
Finally, we arrive at our third category of questions, the ones regarding your future goals and motivation. The classic prompt here is, of course, what are your 5 or 10-year career goals? They are purposefully shifting the timeline from the past into the future to gauge your ambition and your overall direction.
Variations on this theme might include asking about your long-range goals, what really motivates you to do your best, or if you have any plans for further education. Sometimes they might simply ask, so why do you want to work for us? Remember those secret deductions the employer is making that we discussed earlier? Yeah, these future-oriented questions are specifically testing the probability that you're going to stay with the company, as well as your commitment to your own professional development. They are looking for alignment. Does your envisioned future actually match the reality of the role they're offering? You need to show them, without a doubt, that this job is a deliberate step in your master plan, not just some random stopgap.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a complete winning strategy, which is perfectly summarized by this quote right from our source material. Preparation and consistent practice will allow you to develop the confidence and prove the competence you need. That right there is the overarching theme. You guys, you cannot just skim a list of questions online and hope for the best. You have to practice this inside-out approach. You've got to understand the employer's hidden deductions, constantly frame your answers around bringing tangible value, and categorize the questions so you're literally never caught off guard.
To wrap things up, I want to leave you with the ultimate provocative question drawn from the very end of our source text. Why should we hire you? It's blunt. It is direct. But having gone through this explainer, you actually have the tools to answer it now. You know exactly what they secretly want to deduce, you know the value you need to highlight, and you know exactly how to structure your response with concrete, quantified evidence. So here's my challenge to you. Take everything we've just covered, sit down, and answer this question for yourself right now. Because I promise you, if you can confidently answer this, you are ready for absolutely anything they throw at you. Happy prepping.